Arrival on Lumina, the shuttle's descent through. Lumina's atmosphere bathed the cabin in teal light as Dr. Ethan Reed pressed his face against the viewport. After 6 months in cryosleep, the view of his new home, a world of azure, oceans, and emerald continents, stirred something long dormant inside him. Hope. Final approach to New Terra colony, announced the pilot. Local time is 1630. Temperature is 22 degrees Celsius. Remember, atmosphere contains trace elements of luminite. Some disorientation is normal for the first week. Ethan clutched his botany credentials to his chest. Earth's ecological collapse had left him without purpose. But here on Lumina, his expertise in adaptive plant biology had value. The colony needed to expand food production beyond their domes. When the shuttle landed, Ethan was struck by the scent of Lumina's air, like cinnamon and ozone, intoxicating and slightly metallic. Processing through colonial registration took hours. The administrator, a tired man with perpetual stubble, eventually handed him a key card. Residential Block C, Unit 12, the man droned. Water rationed. Power fluctuates. Don't wander into the forests at night. Something about the luminite makes them ... active. Unit 12 was small but functional. A bed, kitchenette, bathroom, and desk. Through the window, he could see forests that seemed to pulse with subtle bioluminescence, even in daylight. Exhausted, Ethan collapsed onto the bed. Only to be awakened by a gentle knock, he opened the door to find a woman with striking features, alabaster skin that seemed to glow from within, copper-colored hair that floated as if underwater, and eyes of liquid silver that reflected the hallway lights like mercury. "Hello," she said, her voice melodic with an accent he couldn't place. "I'm Celine. Unit 14, across the hall. I brought you this." She offered a small potted plant with translucent leaves that pulsed with inner light. "It's a welcome tradition," she explained. "Lunar lily. Native species. It thrives indoors. Thank you." Ethan accepted the gift, noticing her fingers were unnaturally cool when they briefly touched. "I'm Ethan Botanist. Just arrived." "I know," she smiled. "Colony manifests lists all newcomers. Few scientists arrive these days. Too many ... incidents?" "Incidents?" Selena's silver eyes flickered. "Nothing concerning. Adaptation difficulties mostly. The luminite affects people differently." She gestured to his tiny apartment. "You'll need supplies. Join me for dinner tomorrow. I know which synthesizers make edible food." Before he could answer, a colony-wide announcement blared. "Sunset in 15 minutes. All residents please acknowledge curfew protocols." "Should go," Celine said hurriedly. "Night falls quickly here. Keep your curtains closed after dark." As she turned to leave, Ethan noticed something strange in his bathroom mirror visible through the open door. The hallway behind Celine was perfectly reflected, but where Celine herself should have been, there was nothing but empty space. He blinked, and when he looked back at Celine, she smiled knowingly before disappearing down the hallway, leaving Ethan wondering if the luminite was already affecting his perception. Growing suspicions, 3 weeks passed as Ethan settled into his research position at the colony's agricultural dome. His specialty in xenobotanical adaptation had already yielded promising results. Earth crops modified to process Lumina's unique light spectrum were showing 30% increased yields. Dr. Nakamura, his supervisor, was impressed. "The council will approve your permanent residency if these results continue," she told him during their morning briefing. "We need botanists who understand this world." But Ethan's thoughts kept drifting to Celine. Their dinner had turned into regular evenings together. She prepared meals with exotic spices that made synthesized proteins taste like delicacies. She showed him hidden markets where colonists traded with mysterious hooded figures for native goods. She laughed at his earth expressions and taught him phrases in a language that sounded like flowing water. Yet the oddities accumulated. She never ate in his presence, claiming she consumed earlier. Her skin seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. She avoided the colony's central plaza with its many reflective surfaces. And most disturbing, her complete absence in any mirror or reflective surface. One evening, as they walked along the settlement perimeter, Watching the forest pulse with increasing bioluminescence as night approached, Ethan gathered his courage. The luminite in the atmosphere, he began carefully. Does it cause visual hallucinations? Selena's mercury eyes studied him. Sometimes. Why? I can't see your reflection. In mirrors, windows, water, nothing. She stopped walking. For several heartbeats, she said nothing, then sighed softly. I wondered when you'd mention it.
Ah.
So it's not the luminite affecting my perception? No, Ethan, it's not. Then what are you? The question came out more bluntly than he'd intended. Selene smiled sadly. Perceptive. Most colonists prefer comfortable explanations. She gestured toward the glowing forest. I should show you something tomorrow. Meet me at dusk by the eastern airlock. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He accessed the colony database, searching for information about Lumina's indigenous life. Most files were classified, but he found a scientific paper mentioning photosynthetic humanoids observed before official colonization. The paper had been retracted, its author transferred off-world. During his lunch break the next day, Ethan was approached by Security Chief Rowan, a stern woman with hardened eyes. Dr. Reed, she said without preamble. You've been spending time with the resident from Unit 14? Is that prohibited? Ethan asked, heart racing. Not prohibited, discouraged. Her eyes narrowed. Some colonists aren't what they appear, especially those who arrived during the first wave. Just be careful about getting emotionally involved with neighbors who might not be entirely human, she said, then walked away. That evening, as Ethan waited by the eastern airlock, his scientific curiosity battled with growing romantic feelings he couldn't deny. When Selene appeared, silhouetted against the setting sun, both emotions intensified. Whatever she was about to reveal, Ethan knew it would forever change his understanding of Lumina and his heart. The truth revealed. The forest at dusk transformed into an ocean of light. What Ethan had previously observed as subtle bioluminescence became a symphony of color, azure vines, twined with violet trunks, while crimson flowers pulsed like heartbeats. Selene led him along barely visible paths, her movements graceful and precise. The Colonial Administration calls this luminite toxicity zone, she explained. They've declared it off limits because of the high concentration of luminite, Ethan asked, noting how the glowing elements seemed to intensify around them. That's their explanation. Selene's voice carried an edge of amusement. The truth is more complex. They reached a clearing where luminescent moss carpeted the ground in swirls of teal and gold. In the center stood a crystalline formation that resembled a fountain, its transparent structure flowing with liquid light. Selene approached the formation, placed her palm against its surface, and closed her eyes. The light within the crystal brightened, streams of it flowing up her arm and spreading throughout her body until her skin became translucent, revealing a network of light coursing through her like luminous veins. What you're seeing, she said, her voice resonating strangely, is communion. My true feeding, Ethan watched, mesmerized. You're consuming the light? Converting it, she corrected. My people evolved in symbiosis with luminous ecosystem. We're photosynthetic in nature, though not plant-based. We exist partially in another dimensional phase, which is why mirrors can't capture our reflection. They only reflect this dimension's light. Your people? You mean the Luminari? We were here long before humans arrived. She stepped away from the crystal, her glow gradually dimming to a subtle shimmer. Your colony believes they discovered an uninhabited world. In truth, we've been watching, evaluating. But you live in the colony, Ethan said, trying to process this revelation. Some of us serve as observers. We've learned your languages, customs, your strengths and vulnerabilities. She moved closer to him. Most of my people wanted nothing to do with humans after seeing what you did to Earth. But I argued for understanding, for connection. Their faces were inches apart now. Ethan could see specks of light dancing in her silver eyes like distant stars. And have you found what you were looking for? He whispered, in you. Perhaps she touched his cheek, her fingers cool, but no longer uncomfortably so. You see life differently. You understand balance, symbiosis, When their lips met, it felt like kissing starlight, cool at first, then warming, sending pleasant tingles through his body. As they embraced in the glowing forest, Ethan felt something profound shifting between them, boundaries dissolving like morning mist. Later, as they walked back toward the colony, hands intertwined, Celine explained more. The Luminari lived primarily in underground cities, where light was channeled through crystal networks. They had technology beyond human understanding, based on manipulating light and dimensional barriers. The colonial administration suspects our existence, but prefers to classify us as anomalous phenomena. Acknowledging sentient prior inhabitants would complicate their expansion plans. At the edge of the forest, Celine stopped. There are risks to what we're beginning, Ethan. My people have strict laws about interspecies bonding, and your people are often afraid of what they don't understand, he finished, remembering Security Chief Rowan's warning. Under twin moons casting silver light across the landscape, they kissed again, their shadows merging into one on the glowing ground beneath them. Forbidden. Connection, the agricultural dome bustled with activity as researchers prepared for inspection by the colonial governor. Ethan worked feverishly, his modified crops now yielding impressive results. But his mind constantly drifted to Celine. In their increasingly passionate evenings together, their relationship had evolved into something beautiful and dangerous. In her apartment, with luminite crystals enhancing the atmosphere to sustain her, they explored each other with wonder and desire. Her skin glowed beneath his touch, sometimes becoming translucent enough that he could see light moving through her like liquid starfire. When they made love, he experienced flashes of her perception, seeing multiple dimensions simultaneously. Feeling the pulse of light as a physical sensation, "You're changing," she whispered one night, tracing the subtle luminescent patterns that had begun appearing on his skin after prolonged contact with her. "Your cells are adapting to me." The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it thrilled him. But outside their private sanctuary, pressures mounted. Dr. Nakamura noticed his distraction. "The governor expects concrete results." "Read. Your recent samples show unusual properties, light retention beyond normal plant capacity." "Explain." How could he explain that his growing connection with Celine was influencing his work? That her understanding of photosynthesis was revolutionizing his research? Instead, he offered technical jargon that satisfied Nakamura temporarily. Security Chief Rowan was less easily deflected. She cornered him outside the lab. "Your neighbor isn't registered in any Earth database," she stated flatly. "No birth records, no education history, no interplanetary travel documentation. She simply appeared during first settlement." "Perhaps her records were lost during transit," Ethan suggested weakly. Rowan's eyes hardened. "Colony sensors detect energy fluctuations in your quarters during your ... encounters. Care to explain?" "I'm not required to justify my personal life." "You are when it potentially compromises colony security." She handed him a data tablet. 3 colonists have disappeared in the past month. All had reported seeing figures in the forest that glowed from within. All had unusual energy readings in their quarters before disappearing. Ethan's blood ran cold. "You can't possibly think Celine. I think you're being manipulated by something that looks human but isn't." Rowan's voice softened slightly. "We've scheduled a mandatory physical examination for all colonists tomorrow. If your friend has nothing to hide, she won't object to standard medical scanning." That evening, Ethan rushed to Selena's apartment. She already knew. "There are increasing restrictions," she said, pacing anxiously. "My people have detected new security protocols, energy barrier installations around the forest edges. Rowan suspects something. There are disappearances not our doing." Selena's eyes flashed. "Some colonists ventured into forbidden territory, encountered phenomena they weren't prepared for. Dimensional rifts can occur naturally where luminite concentrations are high." She took his hands, her touch sending pleasant warmth through him. "The examination will expose me, Ethan. Their scanners will detect my non-human cellular structure, and don't attend. I'll create a distraction. If I don't appear, they'll come for me. Come for us." She pressed against him desperately. "My people are divided. Some believe it's time to reveal ourselves. Others want to remove all human presence from Lumina. War is becoming increasingly likely. As they clung to each other, the colony alarm suddenly blared. Through the window, they saw multiple luminous figures emerging from the forest, approaching the settlement boundary. "It's starting," Celine whispered, fear and resignation in her voice. "We're out of time." Choosing between worlds, chaos engulfed the colony as luminous figures approached from all directions, not attacking but surrounding, a show of force that sent colonists into panic. Security teams mobilized while the governor's voice blared over intercoms, demanding calm and ordering everyone to designated shelters in Celine's apartment. Ethan watched the scene unfold with growing dread. "They're not here to harm anyone," Celine explained, her form shifting between solid and translucent as her agitation grew. "It's a demonstration showing your leaders they can no longer pretend we don't exist." "What happens now?" Ethan asked, torn between his human connections and his love for this extraordinary being. "The Council of Light demands recognition and territorial agreements." She touched his face tenderly. "But I must join them. My position as observer ends tonight." Pounding at the door interrupted them. Security Chief Rowan's voice called out, "Dr. Reed, we know you're in there with her. The governor requests your presence immediately." Selena's eyes widened. "They think you can mediate." Ethan made his decision instantly. "Then let's show them we can." When they opened the door, Rowan's shock at Selena's now fully luminescent appearance was evident. But to her credit, she maintained her composure. "Both of you. Command Center. Now." The Colonial Command Center was a scene of controlled chaos. Screens displayed the surrounding luminari, while the governor, a tall woman with steel-gray hair and calculating eyes, stood calmly at the center. "Dr. Reed," she acknowledged, then turned her gaze to Celine. "In the Luminari Observer we've been pretending not to notice for 3 years." Celine stepped forward, her form shifting fully into her natural state. Humanoid, but composed of swirling light patterns within a translucent outer form. Several officials gasped. "I am Celine, daughter of the Council of Light," she announced formally. "We have watched and waited, hoping humans would recognize our existence without confrontation. That time has passed." The governor's expression remained neutral. "We suspected indigenous sentient life from the beginning. Our directives were to establish peacefully without interference. Without acknowledgement is not without interference," Celine countered, as negotiations began in earnest. Ethan found himself in the unprecedented position of bridge between species. His scientific understanding combined with his intimate knowledge of Celine allowed him to explain concepts from both perspectives. Hours later, as dawn broke, a framework emerged, formal recognition of Luminari sovereignty, restricted human expansion zones, and a joint scientific exchange program focused on sustainable integration. But the personal question remained unanswered until Ethan and Celine stood alone at the colony's boundary. Watching Luminari representatives return to the forest, "I must go with them," she said softly. "My role here is complete." Ethan took her hands, noting how the luminescent patterns on his own skin responded to her touch. "The cellular changes you mentioned, how far could they go?" Her eyes widened with understanding. "The adaptation works both ways. With time, with more communion, ... A bridge between our physiologies might be possible. Not human, not Luminari, but something new." "Then I'm coming with you," he said simply. "I'm a xenobotanist." What better research than becoming the first successful human-Luminari hybrid? Celine's form brightened with joy. The process would be gradual, irreversible. It's like falling in love has been. As they walked into the luminescent forest, leaving human settlement behind, Ethan glanced back once. In a puddle of rainwater, he saw his reflection beginning to flicker, just like Selena's. Sometimes there, sometimes not. The beginning of his transformation into something extraordinary. Behind them, the first light of Lumina's sun transformed the settlement into gold, while before them stretched a forest of endless light and possibility,